If you've ever wondered why certain relationships remain permanently etched in people's minds, even after years have passed, while others fade from memory within weeks, then this video will expose exactly what neuroscience has uncovered regarding this phenomenon. Today, I'm going to reveal the hidden biochemical formula that makes his brain literally become addicted to your presence. And no, this has nothing to do with expensive fragrances or seductive lingerie. It concerns something far more influential: how you trigger specific neurotransmitters that generate emotional dependency, a brain chemistry that transforms you into a kind of natural narcotic for his consciousness. Perhaps you've already noticed that certain women seem to possess an unexplainable power, not necessarily the most attractive ones, nor the most accessible, but those who somehow manage to occupy a permanent space in the masculine psyche. What if I told you this isn't luck or innate talent, that there's actually a neurological formula behind all of this, a sequence of chemical reactions in the brain that you can learn to trigger intentionally? Neuroscience has already mapped precisely what occurs in the brain when someone develops romantic obsession, and it discovered something captivating. It's not love that creates addiction, it's the chemistry of uncertainty, anticipation, and intermittent reward. It's as if his brain transforms into an emotional casino where you represent the jackpot he never knows when he'll hit. And when you understand this mechanism, everything changes, because then you stop trying to be the perfect girlfriend and start becoming the most addictive neurological experience of his life. The problem is that most women do exactly the opposite of what science recommends. They offer predictability when they should create mystery. They provide certainty when they should plant doubts. They satisfy when they should leave him hungry. And then his brain relaxes, stops producing dopamine, and you become furniture in his life. But when you learn to activate his brain's reward system strategically, you don't just become a pleasant memory, you become a chemical necessity. And that's exactly why this video could be a game changer in your romantic life. But before we dive deep into this knowledge that most people have never had access to, I want to ask you something very simple and important. If up to this point you felt that this content makes sense to you, hit that like button right now. This gesture that might seem small is what shows me that this message is truly reaching you and also helps YouTube deliver this video to more women who need to know this truth. And take advantage to comment below if you've ever lived through this experience of feeling that he relaxed, lost interest, and suddenly you became invisible to someone who previously seemed obsessed. Your comment not only strengthens our community, but could be exactly what another woman needs to read today to realize she's not alone. And of course, subscribe to the channel right now, because each video here is constructed to open your eyes, change your way of viewing relationships, and give you the power to become unforgettable in his mind. I'll start by telling you about the first neurotransmitter you need to master: dopamine. It's not the chemistry of pleasure, as many people think. Actually, dopamine is the chemistry of seeking, of anticipation, of wanting more. It's what makes his brain think about you when he should be focused on work. It's what wakes him up at midnight with you on his mind. And most importantly, it's only released in uncertainty, in expectation, in almost but not quite. I have a friend who discovered this unknowingly. She was dating a guy for several months, always available, always responding immediately, always saying yes to everything he proposed, and she noticed he was becoming increasingly distant, colder, less interested. Until one day she simply had to travel for work for 2 weeks and couldn't talk to him like before. You know what happened? He went crazy, sent messages every day, became anxious, started planning surprises for when she returned. His dopamine spiked because finally there was uncertainty in the equation. Dopamine is activated when the brain detects the possibility of a reward, but isn't sure if it will obtain it. That's why addictive games never give you constant rewards. They create unpredictable patterns that keep the brain always in alert state, always wanting more. And you can use exactly the same logic in relationships, not by being unstable or manipulative, but by understanding that predictability kills desire and well-dosed uncertainty keeps it alive. When you're always available, always predictable, always guaranteed, his brain stops producing dopamine in relation to you. Not because you're not worthwhile, but because there's nothing left to seek, to conquer, to anticipate. His neurological system simply turns off the desire alarm. It's like eating chocolate every day. The first time is incredible. The 10th time it's normal. The 100th time you don't even taste it anymore. The second neurotransmitter you need to know is noradrenaline, also known as norepinephrine. It's responsible for the sensation of alertness, for heart acceleration, for the feeling that something important is happening. It's the chemistry that makes him nervous before seeing you, that accelerates his pulse when you enter a room. And it's activated when the brain perceives that something rare and valuable might escape. Noradrenaline is the reason why people in on and off relationships are so addictive. The constant possibility of loss keeps the nervous system always alert, always in maximum attention state. But you don't need to create drama or break up and get back together to activate this. There's a much more elegant and powerful way to make this work. It's about creating the sensation that you're a rare treasure that he could lose if he doesn't appreciate you. Something few people know is that noradrenaline is also released when we're faced with something we deeply admire, something we consider superior or special. That's why people who have high standards, who don't settle for just anything, who have their own interesting life, are so magnetic. Their brain releases noradrenaline constantly because it feels it's in the presence of something valuable that needs to be conquered and maintained. This explains why women who have their own life, their own objectives, who don't give up their dreams for anyone, are so attractive. It's not games, it's pure neuroscience. The masculine brain is programmed to value what's difficult to conquer and easy to lose. And when you position yourself as someone who has inherent value, who doesn't need external validation, you automatically activate noradrenaline in his brain. But there's a crucial detail here. Noradrenaline only works if it's genuine. If you pretend to have your own life just to impress, his brain will detect the falseness, and the effect is opposite. It has to be real. You need to actually have objectives, dreams, a life that doesn't revolve around anyone, because authenticity has a neurological scent that cannot be falsified. If this point made you understand the power of being rare and authentic, comment below. I choose to be the treasure that no one can replace. This declaration is the reminder that your real value awakens the right chemistry in his brain. The third element of this chemical triad is serotonin, the neurotransmitter of well-being, of deep satisfaction, of the sensation that everything is right in the world. But here comes the trick. You can't give too much serotonin because then he becomes too satisfied and stops seeking you. You need to give homeopathic doses of serotonin, enough for him to associate you with well-being, but not enough for him to get comfortable. Serotonin is activated when we feel safe, accepted, understood. It's that pleasant feeling of being with someone who truly gets us, who makes us feel good about who we are. But if you give this in excess, it becomes friendship, it becomes comfort zone, it becomes that relationship that's good, but not exciting. The secret lies in creating punctual moments of deep connection, interspersed with periods of mystery and challenge. Think of a song you love passionately. If you listened to it 24 hours a day, in a week, you'd already be sick of it, right? But if you listen to it only in special moments, it continues giving you chills years later. It's exactly like this with serotonin in relationships. Moments of deep and true connection, but not constant. Moments where he feels you really see him, understand him, accept him as he is, but surrounded by mystery, by challenge, by things still to discover. One of the most powerful ways to activate his serotonin is through selective validation. Not praising everything, but when you do praise, let it be something genuine, specific, that shows you really paid attention to him as a person. Not, "You're handsome," but "I love how you become focused when you're explaining something you're passionate about." Your eyes become different. This creates a deep neurological connection because he feels he was truly seen and understood. Serotonin is also released when we feel special, unique, chosen. That's why women who have criteria, who don't give themselves to just anyone, who make sure to make it clear they chose to be there, are so addictive. His brain registers, "She could be with anyone, but chose to be with me." This generates a dose of serotonin associated specifically with you, creating a positive neurological mark. Do you understand now how small doses of true connection can be much more powerful than constant surrender? Comment below. I choose to be remembered for the rare and unforgettable moments. This phrase is your reminder that value lies in the balance between mystery and depth. And we arrive at the fourth and perhaps most powerful neurotransmitter of this entire chemistry, oxytocin, known as the love hormone, of attachment, of connection. It's released during physical touch, during moments of emotional intimacy, during intense shared experiences. And here's the secret that can change everything. Oxytocin creates dependency when it's released intermittently and unpredictably, not when it's constant. Oxytocin is the reason why some couples feel literally addicted to each other, even after years together. It's not because they're always attached, it's because they created a pattern of intense connection, followed by individual space, of deep intimacy, followed by personal mystery. The brain never knows when it will receive the next dose of oxytocin, so it stays always in anticipation state. There's a fundamental difference between suffocating intimacy and addictive intimacy. Suffocating intimacy is when you're always available for everything, always wanting to talk about everything, always trying to share every moment of his life. This might even generate oxytocin, but in constant doses that make the brain get used to it. Addictive intimacy is when you create genuinely special, unique, unforgettable moments, but that don't happen all the time. It's like those couples who have special rituals, private codes that only they comprehend, instances of pure understanding that remain singular and precious. Every encounter like this leaves an oxytocin signature in the mind, linked specifically to your presence. Since these encounters cannot be anticipated, his brain remains perpetually anticipating the next one, maintaining a quiet yearning for additional moments like these with you. Oxytocin also releases during deeply meaningful conversations, when you genuinely open up and allow him to do likewise. However, not every conversation can reach such depth, otherwise the significance diminishes. These must be those instances where you truly connect on an elevated wavelength, where everything else fades away, and then you return to your regular existence, to your aspirations, to your personal enigma. Write in the comments, "I understood the chemistry." Nayo. If you're recognizing how all these neurotransmitters interconnect to generate a distinctive brain experience, because when you comprehend this science, you stop doing everything that unknowingly destroys this chemistry. You cease providing excessive certainty, excessive intimacy, excessive predictability, and everything shifts. Now that you understand the four chemical foundations of desire, I'll demonstrate how they collaborate to create what I term the neurological formula of obsession. This isn't about manipulating anyone. It's about understanding how the human brain operates and positioning yourself to naturally activate these mechanisms. The formula works like this. You establish dopamine cycles through unpredictability, activate norepinephrine through scarcity and self-worth, offer homeopathic doses of serotonin through moments of genuine connection, and seal everything with oxytocin through unique and unforgettable experiences. When these four elements combine in balanced proportion, you don't become just a girlfriend or a fling, you become a neurological necessity. But one thing must be clear, this only works if it's authentic. If you attempt to force this chemistry, his brain will detect the manipulation, and the effect will be opposite. You need to genuinely have an interesting life, genuinely have standards, genuinely be selective about who you give yourself to, because neuroscience cannot be deceived. It reads the energetic frequency of your truth. A friend told me a story that perfectly illustrates this formula in action. She met a guy who was completely addicted to his ex-girlfriend, even after 2 years of separation. He couldn't properly relate to anyone else because nobody activated the same neurological circuit. Know why? The ex had unconsciously mastered this formula. She was unpredictable but not unstable, valuable but not inaccessible, affectionate but not suffocating, intimate but not obvious. What this friend did was interesting. Instead of trying to compete with the ex's chemical memory, she created a new neurological experience. She began activating the same neurotransmitters, but differently, uniquely hers. And it worked because she wasn't pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was being herself in the most magnetic way possible. The truth is, every woman can activate this chemistry, but most don't know how. They think they have to be perfect, available, predictable, when actually the masculine brain is programmed to be activated by the opposite: mystery, conquest, surprise, gradual discovery. If you've realized now that you don't need to be perfect but rather authentic to activate this powerful chemistry, comment below. I choose to be unforgettable through my truth. D. This phrase is your declaration that you won't force anything anymore, but let your authenticity be what etches your mark on his brain. There's a specific sequence to activate this brain chemistry, and it happens in 3 distinct phases. The first phase is dopamine activation through initial mystery. You don't reveal yourself completely at once, leave questions hanging, create curiosity. It's not about being difficult, it's about having layers, like a good book you can't put down, because there's always something more to discover. The second phase is when you activate norepinephrine and serotonin together through what I call selective connection. You show you're worth conquering, but when you choose to connect, the connection is real, deep, genuine. It's in this phase that you create the unique neurological mark, that chemical signature that only you can awaken in him. The third phase is when you seal everything with oxytocin through unique shared experiences. It doesn't need to be anything grandiose. It could be a midnight conversation where you truly saw each other authentically. It could be a moment of understanding that only you two will comprehend. The important thing is that it's genuine, rare, and unforgettable. What happens when these 3 phases complete is that you create a kind of neurological brand. His brain becomes literally programmed to associate well-being, pleasure, satisfaction, and connection with you. But since this chemistry isn't constant, he remains always with a quiet hunger for more moments like these. And there's a detail that makes all the difference. This formula only works long-term if you genuinely like yourself, if you genuinely have a life that satisfies you, if you genuinely don't need external validation to feel complete. Because when you try to activate these neurotransmitters from neediness, from fear of losing, from need for approval, the energy changes and the effect is opposite. And now I need to tell you about the fatal error most women commit unknowingly that completely destroys this brain chemistry we were building. It's what I call neurological overdose. When you finally manage to activate these neurotransmitters and notice it's working, the temptation is to exaggerate, increase the dose, try to intensify the effect, but the brain doesn't work like that. Neurotransmitters have a tolerance logic, just like drugs. If you give too much dopamine, the receptor becomes saturated. If you give too much norepinephrine, the system becomes exhausted. If you give too much serotonin, he becomes comfortable. If you give too much oxytocin, he feels suffocated. The key lies in balance, in the right dosage, in perfect timing. I've seen women who were going perfectly well, activating all this chemistry naturally. And then they started forcing, saw he was more interested and thought, now I'll intensify, I'll be more available, I'll show even more interest. And then all the neurochemistry went wrong because his brain got used to it. lost the surprise element, lost the unpredictability. The secret lies in keeping the dosage always variable, always unpredictable, always leaving him wanting a little more. It's like seasoning food. A little salt enhances flavor. Too much salt ruins everything. A little pepper heats just right. Too much pepper makes it inedible. Brain chemistry works exactly like this. One of the hardest things to accept is that when you activate this chemistry correctly, you need discipline not to overdo it. When you see he's starting to seek you more, demonstrate more interest, become more curious, the natural reaction is to want to feed this even more. But that's exactly where you need to maintain balance. It's like that song you love. If you listen to it all the time, it would lose its magic. But if you listen only at special moments, it continues giving you chills. Brain chemistry works the same way. Special moments should continue being special. Deep connections should continue being rare. Intimacy should continue being conquered, not guaranteed. If you understood now that balance is what keeps magic alive, comment below. I choose to dose chemistry in the right measure. This phrase is your commitment to never overdo it again and to always maintain the mystery that feeds desire. And then something happens that I call silent transformation. When you understand and apply this neurological science consistently and authentically, something fundamental changes within you. You stop chasing, begging for attention, trying to convince someone of your value, because now you know exactly how desire chemistry works and know that forcing is the fastest way to destroy it. You begin positioning yourself differently in the world, not because you're following a strategy, but because you've internalized a deep truth about how relationships really work at the neurological level. You understand that your value doesn't depend on how much someone wants you, but on how you naturally activate that person's desire system. It's a subtle but powerful change. You stop being afraid of not being chosen, because you know that when you activate this chemistry correctly, the choice becomes almost automatic, not through manipulation, but through neurological compatibility. His brain simply cannot forget you because you've become a chemical necessity. And then you attract not just anyone, but people who truly value this chemistry you awaken. People who understand, even unconsciously, that you are rare, special, different. Because when you master this science, you don't need to compete with anyone. You create your own category. The most beautiful transformation of all is when you realize you no longer need to worry about being unforgettable. You simply are, not because you force it, not because you follow techniques, but because you understood how natural attraction chemistry works and learned to flow with it instead of fighting against it. Write in the comments, chemistry mastered, if you're feeling this transformation happening inside. Because when we understand the science behind our relationships, everything becomes simpler, more natural, more powerful. And when you look at your love life's future with this knowledge, everything changes perspective. You no longer get anxious about whether someone will choose you because you know exactly how to activate the chemistry that makes this choice almost inevitable. You no longer fear losing someone because you know how to create genuine and lasting neurological bonds. You stop competing and start creating. Stop begging and start inspiring. Stop chasing and start magnetizing. Because now you understand that true love isn't about convincing someone to love you. It's about naturally activating the brain chemistry that makes this love a consequence, not an effort. And the most beautiful thing of all is that this chemistry doesn't deceive anyone. It creates genuine connections, healthy relationships, bonds based on real compatibility. Because when you activate these neurotransmitters authentically, you attract people who truly vibrate on your frequency. Your romantic future stops being a lottery and becomes a science. Not in the cold sense of the word, but in the sense that you understand the laws governing attraction and learn to dance with them. You become a woman who doesn't need to worry about being remembered, because you've become neurologically unforgettable. And if you've made it this far, it's because some part of all this science touched something deep inside. Write in the comments, "I am the chemistry," if you're ready to apply this knowledge and see your love life transform definitively. I want to know, who are the women brave enough to master the neuroscience of love? If this ending ignited in you the certainty that you can be neurologically unforgettable, comment below, "I choose to create my romantic future with consciousness." Oh, this phrase is your declaration of power, showing you no longer wait for luck, because now you understand the science that transforms love into choice. If this content opened your eyes to a new way of understanding relationships, leave your like on this video. It's not just to help the channel, but to show that this type of deep and transformative knowledge needs to reach more women who are tired of superficial relationships and want true connections. And if you want to continue this journey of self-discovery and feminine empowerment based on real science, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because each video here is a new layer of knowledge that can revolutionize not just your relationships, but your entire life. There's a video right there that complements everything we discussed today, showing how to apply this chemistry in practice, day to day, naturally and authentically. Click and come with me, because the transformation is beginning and you deserve access to all the secrets neuroscience has already discovered about love.